and even me, like, I just going on from what Melinda said, like, I grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood, but in my neighborhood, I was always the darkest person in the class. You know what I mean? Like, I was always the dark-skinned girl, and I got called all kinds of names because of my skin color, to the point where it's like you genuinely internalize these things, you know? And it's not like my mother didn't tell me, oh, you know, your skin's beautiful. I had people telling me your skin's beautiful, but when you're going to school and you're always the darkest person in the room among black people, you're, you know, you feel it's sort of, you internalize things, you know. Sometimes that's the thing, like what you were saying about Keira Knightley. Keira Knightley is a beautiful woman, you know, and in terms, she fits, in my mind, she fits what the standard of beauty is in the world. But the hardest part is, you know, we know that Keira Knightley is airbrushed on the magazine. We know that Keira Knightley is probably wearing Spanx underneath her dress, you know? But it's so hard to believe. I mean, Dove has started this whole new campaign of, you know, real beauty and things like that. But even despite the fact that we know that these images, for the most part, are fake, that these women don't even look like this, we believe it. It's something that is so hard to turn off.
And that's
Absolutely.
exactly what you speak into in the book, is turning off that tape recorder. Don't believe the lies anymore.
And turning on God's truth.
The crazy thing is, I don't know how much this affects the young girls, because you really have a message for them as well, but it's so transient, this whole definition of beauty. You talk about a chapter in history where women plucked their hair at the hairline to have a higher, to look balding? I don't get that. And then, you know, Queen Elizabeth I, who had such white skin, and the women started putting something on their skin that they discovered was poisonous.
And they were dying.
Yes.
I mean, what, are we crazy?
We are.
I mean, we are.
And that kind of goes into a point that you make in your book, that beautiful girls are worth more. That is a part that I was like, you know, you know, sometimes you like to think that you're over your issues, but then, you know, every now and then you're reminded that, okay, maybe you're not over your issues. Can you talk a little bit about that part in the book, because it was just so profound?
Well, I don't think we outgrow it. Satan never really says, well, she didn't fall for that, so I'm going to let her alone. Instead, he says, well, I got her on this beauty lie when she was 15, and I've let her go on it for a few years, so let me shift it and change it. Now that she's 40, let her get stressed out, not about her acne, but about her wrinkles. You know, and he just changes the lie, and we realize that we continually have to go back to the source of truth, which Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. He said that, and yet we are focusing on the cover of a magazine as the standard of our value. We have to go back to our source.
It's really a battle. Like, as I sit here, like, it's a constant, like, you have to fight those thoughts coming in and those images to completely stand strong on how God sees me and how God sees you. Like, I mean, even now, even though I went through a really rough period in my teen years, even now I still have those insecurities. I have to battle it out in my mind, you know, and go to, you know, the Bible and say, okay, what does God say about me? And honestly, for me, thankfully, I have, you know, a husband, Peter, who speaks really life words to me that help as well. But I mean, it really is, you can't just say, okay, all right, I hear you girls here on the couch, and everything's going to change because I'll just kind of believe it. But it really has to be a choosing.
It takes some work.
Yeah, it does take work to really challenge
these things. You got to roll up your
things.
sleeves and dig into some things that are going to transform your mind. It took time for your mind to be trained by the culture. And it takes time to retrain your mind to believe truth.
And I really like the fact that you brought up the Bible, Melinda, because the Bible, God's word to all of us, is filled with life-affirming words spoken directly to us. And so if you don't have a husband or friends that are speaking encouraging words into you, go to God's Word. Pick up the Bible and open it up. Get to know who God is. Read Psalm, it's a book in the Bible, Psalm chapter 139. It talks all about how priceless you are to God, how He watches you, He knows your heart. He loves you so much. He created you intricately. Before anyone ever saw you on the outside, He was knitting you together on the inside because He loves you so much. And so,
how about Psalm 45, verse 11?
Go ahead, Moira. Listen, O daughter, consider and give ear. The King is enthralled by your beauty. Oh, taking his breath away. Are we getting that?
And 2 verses later, he calls us his princess. I love that. I love that.
But don't you want, I mean, I'm still on this. I just want to rage and get angry about this, because all across the nation, you have girls that are severely depressed, that are cutting, that are lonely, that are broken because of these lies. And it's almost like women, you know, of all ages need to stand and really protect and speak life into these women, you know, and to give the word and to call up and say, hey, I was thinking of you. I just want to say, you're beautiful, you're worthy. Here's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like we need to rally up and
we
fight
see a
this.
drastic difference in some of those at-risk behaviors, the cutting, the binging, the purging, when they do have someone, even just a few years older and wiser, speaking into their lives. We've seen high-risk behaviors that are in middle school with those kinds of behaviors in the 30% range, but when they pair them with high school and college-age girls who are breathing truth into them, those high-risk behaviors drop to 1%.
Wow.
So we've got to take that time.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. What I wanted to say was something that my sister does, and she started doing this a couple of years ago. We would like be walking in the mall, and she would see like a young girl, and you know, maybe she's, you know, not dressed as appropriately as she should be, and you know, whatever the situation is, and maybe she's, you know, loud and whatever. And my sister would go up to her and be like, "Hi." And I'd be like, no, like, you don't know her, don't go talk to her. And she's like, you're very beautiful. And then she would just turn around and walk away, right? And then I'd be like, what did you say to her? And she's like, oh, I just told her that she's pretty and that she's beautiful. And she just turned around and walk away. And I'm like, well, why would you do that? And she's like, well, you know, she's acting as if she doesn't fully understand that she's a princess. You know, she doesn't know that she's a princess. So me as a random person going up to her and saying to her, you're beautiful, I feel like that was my sister's way of like speaking into that girl's life. And I was like, wow, you know, I would be terrified to do it, but she was just like, no, you know, Bridget, she probably needs to hear that.
Actually, I'm about to get into a princess costume, my daughter and I, for a princess tea tomorrow at the church.
We have to
up
see
here.
that. Take a picture of that.
Okay.